The views expressed in this program do not necessarily reflect those of this station.
Welcome to Insights into Northeast Michigan, a WBKB News public affairs program. Insights deals with the issues affecting those in the community as well as Northeast Michigan and the state. And now, Insights into Northeast Michigan.
Welcome to Insights into Northeast Michigan, and this week we have Mayor Matt Wallagora joining us from the city of Alpena. Mayor Matt, thank you so much for taking some time to chat with me and giving me some updates on the city, where everything's at, and what you see for the future.
Sure. Good morning, Mike.
So overall, how do you think things have been going since the year has started?
Well, I think things are going quite well. When you consider if the year started in January, a lot of planning and getting things ready for what's to come in the spring and summer months and throughout the year. I think the planning stages, everything looks pretty good.
And now you have budget planning coming up in May. I know this is a big ordeal for City Council. Obviously, you have a lot of things that are coming onto your plate. You've been reviewing budgets for things like water, sewer rates. What do you think is up for the biggest discussion, and why?
Well, you mentioned water and sewer rates, probably one of the bigger issues with the budget. The water and sewer budget is basically, I consider them separate from the general fund budget that funds the other departments and work throughout the city. And so that part of the budget is established by current taxes and millages, and so that's divvied up a little bit different. Water and sewer obviously is one of the bigger issues with the budget process, because we as council and staff have to determine whether we need to raise the rates, obviously, to cover capital improvement programs and maintenance. So that will probably be one of the bigger discussions and issues with the budget, sure.
And how does City Council, a member like you, approach the budget coming into May? Because obviously that you're having a lot of different presentations, a lot of different numbers thrown at you. What's kind of your mindset going into the month of May?
Well, I can't speak for to how other council persons approach it, obviously, but for myself, it's over the course of 7 years, it's become more of a long-term process for me. I certainly don't wait until the first meeting in May to start paying attention to what's going on. But the actual process is kind of officially kicked off with the capital improvement plan meeting that we have in conjunction with the Planning Commission, and all the department heads come in and they give short-term and long-term presentations for what they plan to do with their portion of the budget, and but not general. They don't get down into just general running of their department, but the bigger projects. So that covers that part, and then the rest of the budget process is, we're blessed to have a staff that we rely on. They're professionals. They're being paid to set their own department budgets, and so, but just for knowledge base, to keep an eye on how that all works throughout the years and talk to them about their different projects and how things are going. And they've, in many years, they've come at the end of the budget process or the end of the budget year, they've always come in lower because of being able to run more efficiently, or make things cost a little bit less than they may have
They're
expected.
able to get creative.
They get very creative, and so you have that, and then you have so that process develops, and then the other things are the other entities that we fund, like Target Alpena, Hunt, the Here and Humane Society. There's a couple others that that we have to determine, how much of our budget are we going to expend to them. And so you just do an analysis of what they've been able to do for the whole of the city, and whether the funding is justified or not, and then you make a decision in the end.
Do you think we'll see any major changes with any of the departments and different branch offs for the budget?
I don't foresee anything noticeable. Obviously, there's a lot of challenges. The challenges in the budget this year, from my perspective, will be the EMS and ambulance service budget is going to be a bit of a challenge for our chief and for the staff, just because of different cuts that were made by funding from the county and things of that nature. Obviously, money from the state plays a big part, and a lot of times we set our budget not knowing exactly what we're going to get back from funding from the state, so that makes it challenging. But I don't think that it will be anything that the general public will notice in less services or anything of that nature.
One of the biggest topics I think that's been talked about over these past couple of months is the potential for new bike racks to help keep the sidewalks clear of bikes, attaching your bike to different poles, things like that. And obviously you're working with the DDA to kind of talk about this as a potential spot for Alpena. Can you just give us a quick update in the process and where everything is at right now?
Sure. So a quick backstory, I guess. The DDA, as a committee or as a whole, they would like to get the smaller bike racks that have been out in front of stores over the years eliminated, just to welcome more foot traffic through without so much bike traffic, and so the idea of having bike parking, established parking lots, if you will, or places for bike, that is nothing new. That's been proposed for many years, and so they've run that through committee, and they've got their funding, they're part of the funding, and so they presented it to the city council, and pretty much all we asked was perhaps that they reconsider how much we were spending for how much we were going to get. That was city council's perspective, and so we've basically put that back to committee without taking a vote for or against it. We basically just asked them, can you take another look at this? And things that we mentioned were maybe something a little bit more creative rather than out of the box or out of a magazine, if you will, something more in keeping with our art community that we've become. Perhaps looking a little bit deeper into whether some local fabricators might be interested in making us something rather than paying the shipping cost to have something shipped here from somewhere else. And so, and again, just the overall cost. And so we've kind of put that back to them, and then we're just waiting for them to come back. And we've been in constant conversation with them in the last couple of weeks, back and forth a little bit, just to make sure that they understand where we're coming from. We're not saying no bike park facilities. That's not what it's all about. It's for them to determine whether that's in the best interest of the downtown. So that's kind of where that's at. It's just in a redeveloping field.
Yeah, it's in a very, I feel like, infant stages. So
sure, yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what comes of that, because I know a lot of people had different opinions about it throughout our community, and I'm excited to see kind of what's next. Coming up next on Insights into Northeast Michigan, we'll continue our conversation with Mayor Matt, talking about more issues dealing with the city. Welcome back to Insights into Northeast Michigan. Let's continue our conversation here with Mayor Matt Wallagora. Matt, you have a big job ahead trying to find a replacement for the city manager. First off, what do you look for in a city manager?
Me particularly, it comes down to being a good leader, a good people person. Obviously, works with a lot of different. He or she works with a lot of different department heads, a few unions, and then just the day-to-day with the public and media and things like that. So obviously, someone with a decent presence for that. I love a great thinker, out-of-the-box thinker, and professional, and someone that understands the relationship between council and the city manager. That can be different at times. So I feel like I just described Greg Sundin. He's been really great, and his relationship with city council and the role of city council staff, himself, it's unique, and so someone that understands it and works well like Greg would be really great.
What does the process look like for bringing in a new city manager? Because I know Greg still has some time left here, and he's meant a lot to the city. How is that process kind of unfolding right now, and where are we?
In order to, I guess what I would say is cast the biggest net, the City Council is going to, we expect to go with a consulting firm as we did the last time. And so we just, yesterday was the deadline for RFPs for the consulting firm. So we'll meet next week. That'll be, what we're going to do is we're going to have a special workshop so we don't have to discuss it and make the regular meeting so much longer. So that'll be issued to the press when we nail down a date for that. We'll just have a basic workshop where City Council and a few members of staff will go through the RFPs for the consulting firm. We'll select one from there, and then we'll meet with that consulting firm, all of us, and do kind of what I just did with you, and make sure that the consulting firm that's looking for candidates understands what type of candidates we're looking for. You know, unique individuals, someone, you know, someone that will move Alpena forward even beyond where we are now, with some unique thought and bring in a good new perspective. And so that's my opinion. And so yeah, council will sit down with them, and then they will start the process of advertising for that position. And then they will vet the candidates to us, and hoping to get through that process in late summer, and get someone hired by late November, early December.
So it's coming up pretty fast.
It seems like a long way off right now, I guess, thinking about December, but it'll be pretty fast.
I mean, and in the process of a year, just to bring somebody in who can kind of wear all those hats and do all those things, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and so we're really we're excited because Alpena's in a great spot right now to have a good pool of candidates, I think. So it'll be exciting.
It'll be very interesting. One of the biggest issues that hits City Hall literally in these past couple of months has been mercury found in the basement, and having to kind of reconstruct almost the whole basement because of this contamination. First off, how is the basement looking?
I haven't been down there, but I've seen some photos. They're keeping obviously the amount of people that are down there to a minimum, but it has passed its the last environmental issue. So we're past. So now we're in the reconstruction phase, and so basically just redoing most if not all of the flooring in the basement, and you know, things like that. That was actually on the capital improvement plan for City Hall, but it was back a ways, but so that's moved that forward. And I look at the whole thing as a learning experience. I mean, it happened, and that's fine. How it was handled is very important, and I think it was handled appropriately right from the very beginning. We even, you know, found some creative ways to pay for that. Our city manager did, and so not to come directly out of our fund balance. And so, unlike the break wall from a couple years ago, this won't hit our budget quite as hard as it could have been. So the cleanup is looking good, and it's still closed off, but once they get the carpeting and probably some minor painting done, it'll be opened back up. It'll be nice.
I know a lot of people are always trying to go down to the basement for certain things, so it's always interesting when you're at City Hall and somebody's about to walk downstairs and you see the giant, it's closed, can't come down here.
Yeah, and they've been moved into into a conference room, and so I'm sure that they're hoping to get back down there in their offices as soon as possible. So
when you're thrown these different hiccups, you know, how do you really try and say, hey, everything is going to be okay, we're going to overcome this? You know, what is your mindset when something like this happens?
Well, it's a mixture of faith, and it's a mixture of also faith in a staff that, like I said, they handle themselves professionally, and I look at it as, you know, when things like that happen, people come together. And they're great communicators. People communicate and figure out what's the most creative and cost-effective and efficient way of handling it. Whether it's a break wall, whether it's parking downtown, whether it's hazardous material, anything like that. You just you have to say, well, we're going to get past it. So look at where you want to be. Where do you want to be when this is over, and then look back, and then come back and say, how are we going to get there? Some are obviously a little bit more difficult than others, but just take care of it. Just take care of it.
Just got to take care of it. You said it well. We'll go on to our next segment after this commercial break. Up next, we'll continue to speak with Mayor Matt Wallagora about some more issues facing our city. Insights into Northeast Michigan. We're chatting with Mayor Matt Wallagora of the city of Alpena, and we've recapped the past couple of months here in the city, and now we get to look forward. And there's obviously a lot of things coming up in the future, in the summer and years on. One of those being medical marijuana. That's obviously a big topic here, and there's been a lot of discussion on the city council meetings, as well as with city council planning. Can you talk a little bit more about where we are right now and what's going on with that?
Sure. So City Council, obviously, as a recap, medical marijuana is what we're talking about. Recreational is a completely different topic. Recreational marijuana passed in the state of Michigan in 2008, passed by every county in the state, and so as an elected official, you start to put those pieces together, and so it wasn't one of those issues that was kind of forced on our rural area by bigger cities like Detroit and Grand Rapids. So you look at every county passed medical marijuana in 2008. They redid the laws twice, and now the laws for medical are very they're very outlaid, they're very understandable as of a couple of years ago. And so, we had kept tabling it and saying, let's wait until the state of Michigan gets the laws straightened out. And so now those are established. And so now rather than vote, we wanted to go into it from a perspective of, okay, if we were to pass medical marijuana, number one thing, where would it fit in our town as far as how the zoning is set up and things of that nature? So we passed the topic back to the Planning Commission, who knows the most about that kind of thing, and just recently they've issued us a map and some foresight as far as where would it fit, and that's basically set up for the different types of the 5 medical marijuana entities, and so you have some that are more industrial and commercial, and you have some that are more retail things, and then you have things like churches and school zones. How far away do you want them from there? How many do you want to allow in the city? Do you want to allow them in the city in general and the downtown area, or just the city and not the downtown? So my perspective was to let's find out everything that we're talking about before we vote on it, and then the voting process will be a little bit different, because now you're taking in a lot of different perspectives. You have the stigma of marijuana in general, and then you look just exactly at the voting process, and of all the different voting processes. It was passed in the city of Alpena, and in most precincts, and so you have to develop this long-term, I guess, perspective on and then you're dealing with facts and emotions and facts and stigmas, and so it's very difficult. It's probably going to be one of the most difficult things that we do this year, as far as what we determine is what's best for the city of Alpena. And at what cost does it come? And so, we'll each do that, go through that process. And so right now, where it's at is Planning Commission has given us their information. We'll go over that. We'll go over everything, all the other materials that we have that every citizen and resident pretty much has some ability to do, obviously, and then probably within the next couple of meetings, we'll discuss whether we want to move forward. And in the event, so if we don't want to move forward, that's very simple. We're not going to move forward, and then the topic is done again for a while, I would expect. If we want to move forward, let's just say, Then we go through some different stages of zoning and ordinance writing, and how do we want to regulate them? How many do we want to have? And the law is written pretty wide open. You can really establish a lot of your own regional choices as far as how that goes. And so we'll go through that entire process one thing at a time, and all of that will happen before we opt in, so to speak. And again, that's just assuming that we move in that perspective. If we don't, then fine. But that will take several meetings, because you don't opt in first and then write all that stuff, because then I would assume it's kind of a madhouse and people will be kind of waiting. And
you want to be
wondering.
prepared too.
It's the whole preparation thing. So by far one of the bigger issues that'll be on the table this year, but not the only one. There'll be some other stuff.
And one of the questions I had was, have you ever in a situation like this where it is such a big topic and a lot of passion, as you mentioned, but there's also a lot of facts, have you ever thought about using like a survey to kind of gauge where citizens are at?
Yes and no. It's yes and no. It's difficult. That's one of the difficult things about being in a position that I'm in is you want to know, you want to survey, but surveys only work to a certain extent. Did everybody get it? Did enough people respond? Was your yes/no question incorporated well enough for them to be able to answer without having to comment too much, because now you're reading hundreds and thousands of comments. And so I guess the short answer was yes, there was a survey. It was on the ballot. Mm-hmm. And so when something's on the ballot and if somebody's done enough of their research to vote yes or no, then they voted yes or no. So the general public did have an opportunity to vote in on it. Now, the DDA a little bit, we tried to zone in a little bit more of what the DDA's perspective was, as to having medical marijuana facilities in the downtown. They rent, they own, their livelihood depends on what happens in the downtown. And so we did send out a survey through the DDA specifically for that purpose. And it came back nearly a little over 60% had no issue with medical marijuana facilities downtown with limitations. And so you look at that and you say, okay, did everybody answer? Did everybody get it? Certainly everyone got it and had the opportunity to answer. And so, but at the same time, the five of us are left with a decision and say, okay, the voters voted for it. The DDA business tenants and landowners seemed to be in favor of it with limitations through the survey. Do we still think that that's the best thing for the city of Alpena moving forward? So it's difficult. So we try to get as much perspective as we can.
It's a lot of give and take and just trying to figure things out.
Yeah, it's difficult. So
real quick, what are a couple of the other issues you're looking forward to in the future?
Just moving ahead and getting, things. I tend to think things are very bright for Alpena. We've got quite a few projects going. We're gearing up pretty soon here to get some roads taken care of, and just continuing on with moving forward and getting more creative and getting things done.
And it's re-election year too, so obviously there's going to be a little bit of change in the future with. There's going to be some stability. I mean, you never know which way the voters are going to vote. But
yeah, you just don't know.
Susan Nielsen is stepping down, and then you have Mike Nowak, and as well as you are up for re-election.
That's correct. So we're looking at, like you said, at least at the minimum one position will change on City Council, and the likelihood that quite possibly three could. So. But we'll get through this year, obviously, and then that would make a difference for next year. So
looking way into the future.
A little bit, but like you said, December's right around the corner when you're talking about some of this stuff. So.
Yeah, it comes up really fast. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me, Mayor Matt Walagora.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching Insights into Northeast Michigan.
Insights into Northeast Michigan is produced by WBKB News. If you have any comments, suggestions, or topics you would like to see on a future show, please email WBKB News. This has been a production of Thunder Bay Broadcasting Corporation. All rights reserved.